Today we have had a new balance of power video for New World. This is where they talk about a lot of the actual balance changes both in PvE, PvP, gearing progression and more, and some very juicy information regarding shirking heals and Ankh, and many more possible OP or underpowered stuff. So let's jump in and talk about it. The video is actually only 10 minutes long if you want to go and watch it yourself, but I'll try and do a very quick summary here. The first thing they talk about is just general progression. They say that story mode might be giving gear that is too good, and they say PvP might not be giving enough good gear. And that's true, because the bags from like Outpost Rush and Arena and that kind of stuff, and even the PvP reward track, honestly feel really underwhelming. Overall, I would summarize that the PvPers are getting the shaft if you just want to do PvP, and they could definitely do with a little bit of a buff, so hopefully they do that soon. They also talk about the named items and this like now fabled 3 chromatic seals that you need to upgrade. They reiterate that 3 is the intended number, and they think 3 is a good number because the gear can be quite good. In some cases it can be BIS, BIS, BISY, whatever you want to call it. BIS is my own term and I'm going to keep using it. And to some extent, I agree with them there. Some of the gear is very good, but some of the items are effectively bait. They're not very good and they're not really worth the cost. And that's my issue. I sort of feel like they should be different amounts of chromatic seals, because I think it's the only thing that would make sense if you're going to actually have good gear and bad gear progress through the same way. Don't let people be baited if they don't know any better. The game could sort of indicate which ones were strong and which ones weren't. I think that would be quite nice. And another question there is, why are chromatic seals time gated? I mean, it is literally just a time gate. You can only buy once per day. Just remove that, please. I think at this point you could just remove it. Let people farm the faction tokens and the gold if they've got it and they want to do that. But that's just what they said about named items. They also say that they're very happy with the way that artifacts are. And you know what? I am also very happy with the way that artifacts are, apart from one key thing that they did not mention, and I'm going to mention it right now, and that is they need bad luck prevention. They also should not be tied behind things that are limited. So I'm okay with the mutation one, sort of, apart from the fact that you can very easily do 35 runs and not get it. Somebody said that you have a 3% chance of not getting both the artifacts if you do all 35 runs. And that's just sad, because then you then have to wait like 4 months before it comes back around. And the worst example completely is the Scorpion Sting from the actual name of the boss. It's gone blank, but the one that only spawns once every 90 minutes. That's very sad. And some people can do that. You know, you can literally do it hundreds of times and still not get it. I know that the odds are like quite good. It's about like a 1 in 10. But it's so painful for the people who don't get it. I myself have been quite lucky, but it's possible that some poor sap out there might do that Scorpion boss 200 times and never get it. We need bad luck prevention. What's worse to me is the fact that we've had things with bad luck prevention in the past, and then they've not brought it forward to the now. I'm not asking it to be made easier. You could, in theory, make it a little bit harder at first and then gradually get it easier and easier. And then eventually, after like 100 kills or whatever, you just get it. They've done that before. They could do something. They should do something. It's not really related to this video. It's just a minor pain point, and I really wish there was bad luck prevention. Let's move on. They do say that gearing is possibly a little bit faster than what they wanted, but overall, they did want it to be faster, so they're pretty happy with it. Apparently, I think they said only 3.7% of people have full gear score 700, and that makes a lot of sense because I don't have that, but I'm pretty happy with my gear. Honestly, the difference between like a 690 gear score and 700 in PvP isn't that much. Obviously in PvE you do need that over the 695 mark, but again, once you've hit that, it's not really that relevant. You're better having the right perks at 695 than the wrong perks at 700. So they're happy with that. I'm vaguely happy with that. Yeah, I think it's good. Now, when they talk about PvP balance, which is what we're going to talk about next, it's worth noting that a lot of this is in flux, and this video I think was recorded about a week ago today. So things may have changed already. And they do say that some of the new artifacts that people get might change some of the builds. For example, the Lost Stopwatch, you know, well, we may have seen the Whelps video where he's just like abusing it. It's just one of those things that might not have existed, or it wasn't available when they recorded this. Now, one thing that they do mention is that overall, the win rates for each weapon have not really dramatically changed. And that sort of makes sense because they've not really dramatically changed the weapons. And they basically break this down into a couple of different sections: Arena, Outpost Rush, Wars, and PvE. And then for some of them, they break them down into damage and win rate. So for example, in Arena, the highest win rates are Life Staff, Blunderbuss, and basically Fire Staff, Ice Gauntlet, they're about the same. The Life Staff, by the way, I'm sort of happy to see that it's got a high win rate because it feels like that. A lot of the times when you're doing Arena, if you have a healer on your team, you're probably happier than not having a healer. Let's just put it like that. Yes, a good coordinated team can kill them, but it's Arena. Everybody's uncoordinated, so that's not something you can rely on. Anyway, they're the 3 biggest win rates. And then for damage, it's Musket, Fire Staff, and Bow. But that doesn't correlate into win rates except for the Fire Staff, obviously. And that's probably because the Musket and the Bow get focused, but I don't really know. They're just sort of easier to kill, I think. And for Outpost Rush, the win rates are similar to what it used to be. It's the Great Axe, the Life Staff, and the Blunderbuss. And for the damage, it's literally the exact same as Arena, Musket, Fire Staff, and Bow. Now, the reason I personally think that Great Axe is in there isn't because of its clump management, which is what Dave sort of suggested it is. I have a feeling that it's because of pre-mades. Great Axes are what bruisers are probably going to be popping off with, and Life Staff users are going to be healing those. So I think that's sort of tailing towards a pre-made. A pre-made is way more likely to win than no pre-made. So, and then for the damage in Outpost Rush, well, obviously they do good damage, and you might as well pick a weapon if you're playing solo that's ranged, because you don't want to get attacked by those pre-mades. It's sort of a more fun experience. So that's what they pick. Musket, Fire Staff, Bow. They do a lot of damage. You can play them solo. Makes sense. But it doesn't translate into wins because you are solo. And then for wars, they said they actually had a lot more changes here. Effectively, they're seeing a lot more Void Gauntlet because of its combination with the bow, etc. And interestingly, the Great Axe win rate is going up, and they chalk that up to the prevalence of Abyss. Abyss, if you don't know, is a Great Axe that scales off int. Then a lot of people are running, I think, is it 350 int, where you do more ability damage than you do your abilities with the Great Axe. With the Gravwell, you can land good combinations. Yeah, Abyss is Abyssy. Another one, which by the way, a lot of people have had an absolute pain in the backside trying to farm. Give me the bad luck prevention, please. And then just in general, they'd want to talk about the Flail because that's obviously the new release. They say overall, they're happy with the Flail. And my personal opinion is I'm also happy with the Flail. Apart from I'm pretty sure the spell effects might be a little bit overbearing, but hopefully one day we can tone that down. They say that the Flail was the most used weapons in dungeons. Now they say it's because it can like heal, tank and that sort of combination. I think it's probably just because it's the new weapon. That will probably fade away, I think, maybe, and maybe I'm wrong. They say it's pretty balanced in PvP. If anything, they might lean towards buffing the healing because that's not very strong. Fair enough. Now they do talk about the Ankh change, and that's where they changed it from 50% to 25%. They think that's enough. And in-game, it is less strong, but it is still sort of strong. So we'll see if it is. They say if they're not happy with that change, then the next step will be to make it so that shirking heals doesn't count as incoming heals. In which case that will be a huge nerf. I mean, they could also just tone down the amount of percentages from shirking heals, but that's what they say they're going to do next. No mention of the bugs that Duke Sloth has been talking about. Now, I haven't actually checked his video, but I believe there's like 1 or 2 videos where he goes through several different bugs that are like combined with shirking heals and Ankh. Don't really know too much about it, but they don't mention it, so let's move on. Overall, for weapons, they mention a couple of ones specifically. So they mention how Life Taker with the Void Gauntlet is pretty strong with a few different things. No plans, I think, to change that yet. It didn't sound like they were planning on changing that anytime soon. But the next 3 might be on the chopping block. So they were talking about nerfing the Blunderbuss. However, that's a very difficult weapon to nerf because if you nerf it, it's very bursty as it is. And if you take away that burst, then it could very easily fall off a cliff. But I also would argue that sometimes the burst is maybe not that fun to play against. So maybe it should fall off the cliff. Maybe it needs a rework. I'm not really sure what they're going to do with that one. If they tone it down just even a little bit, it could very easily just fall off that cliff. So we'll have to wait and see what they do with Blunderbuss. They also talk about the Abyss. And they say the one thing that they're looking at there is that it does bonus damage when it's less than 100 mana. They might alter that a little bit. And then the last item that they talk about specifically is the Scorpion Sting, because they think that's actually contributing to the Blunderbuss win rate, oddly enough, because people are pulling you in, one ball comboing you, you're dead, you don't really get to do anything about it. Boom, probably needs a nerf. Again, if you've seen the Whelps video where he actually combines this with the Lost Stopwatch, then, you know, it makes sense. It's not fun when you can't play your character, and in those videos and in some of those examples, you can't play your character. So that would make sense. I was going to apologise for my artifact bad luck prevention rant, But personally, I've not had the bad luck. But imagine you do. Imagine you get that bad luck. Before you start arguing against me, imagine you are that 1 in 1,000 player who just doesn't get an artifact for ages and ages and ages. That would be very annoying. Let's hope they sort that out for some people. I'm not asking things just to be handed to people. That is not what I'm asking for, and to say so would be disingenuous. So don't do it. I'm watching you. Other than that, the balance changes are a little bit interesting. Some of them I don't really feel myself. I hadn't really got the gist that the Scorpion Sting is overpowered, but my chat was like, yeah, it's very annoying. And I realised that's because I don't really see it in Arena, and I've not really been doing Outpost Rush as much. But today I did a little bit, and yeah, I did start seeing it, and it was annoying, so we'll see how it goes. They've got the stats. Amazon have got the stats. I believe them. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Big shout out to my Patreons. Without you guys, this would be a lot harder to do, so I thank you very much. And if you want to come and talk to me about this on Twitch, I'm streaming 6 days a week, like 7 hours a day at this point. I'm absolutely pumping. So come and join me there. I'd love to see you. I'd love to have you. I'd love to be with you. Other than that, I hope you have the most beautiful day. Like and subscribe.